Hello and welcome to another podcast episode of Belongs to the Shadows. I am your creepy host, Jamie Bennett. And on today's episode, I'm going to be talking about Cleopatra and the mystery that surrounds Cleopatra. And I'm going to try my best not to butcher words, but I kind of snuck a peek. Ahead, and there are some words that, with my lovely dialect, I'm probably going to butcher and mispronounce all sorts of ways. So, fair warning. I mean no disrespect, but just letting you all know. Also, listener discretion is strongly advised, and this is probably going to be a 3 or 4-part series because I love Egyptian culture. I love Egyptian history. It's so fascinating. I'm one of these people that was excited to sit in the movie theater and watch The Mummy. That was exciting. And then also, I'm one of these people that got so excited when I went to the Chicago Film Museum and got to see the Egyptian exhibit with an actual mummy. That was fascinating. I actually really enjoyed that. I know, I'm weird, but that's why I make a good host for this show, right? Right? You don't have to agree with me. Cleopatra is a very, very popular, mysterious individual. She has actually become the lead character in a recent TikTok trend. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Oh, so there is not a whole lot of actual concrete history of Cleopatra because they have had a hard time finding her tomb, and there's so much mystery that shrouds Cleopatra. It could be considered supernatural at this point because like who knows? Who knows where her tomb is, and who knows how she died exactly. They don't know if she ended her life or if she was murdered. So I will do my best to do justice with this topic and Cleopatra's history because I love anything Cleopatra. Although she was not Egyptian, she is intertwined with the Egyptian history. And I'll tell you why. So bear with me. And of course, I said that this is probably going to be a 2 or 3-part episode because you can't talk about Cleopatra without talking about some of the Egyptian goddesses and gods, as well as Kings Valley 5 and King Tutankhamun and Nefertiti. You have to talk about all those individuals, and you have to talk about those storylines. It just needs to be done. So, Cleopatra's history, as I said, is intertwined with tales of both power and mystery. And I will link where I'm getting this information down below because I do want to give credit where credit is due. And I am not going to show you the videos that are included on these pages because I don't want to get dinged for copyright. Don't want to do that. But you can watch it for yourselves if you follow the links. So, while this is not a traditional haunted story, the circumstances surrounding her death, as well as the search for her tomb, have fueled speculation as well as intrigue, suggesting a lingering presence or influence of the famous queen. Now, there is a side story that says that Cleopatra's Needle in London has haunted history, and there is a ghost story that surrounds that. I will link that below, but I'm not going to tell you all about it because I want to stay in the realm of Cleopatra. That's a side story. It's an interesting side story. Y'all can read it for yourself. There's also The Ghost of Cleopatra, which is a book that you can order on Amazon. Not sponsored by the author, by the way, but you might be interested in it. Definitely might be interested in it. So, like I said, Cleopatra had a very mysterious death. They don't know if it was by snake bite or poisoning. It remains shrouded in mystery, as well as questions about whether she was murdered or she ended her own life. The location of Cleopatra's tomb, they've done extensive research on it. They have searched extensively, and it remains undiscovered. So that adds to the mystique that surrounds Cleopatra. Could you imagine if you were an archaeologist and you were the one that actually discovered Cleopatra's tomb? That would be incredible. I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was younger. I really, really did. We went on a class field trip. I forget where to. And the person that was running the class field trip, it was like a nature center or something. I don't know. She asked us, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I would kind of like to be an archaeologist because I think it would be neat to discover Egyptian tombs. Yeah, I've always been that way. I know. I know what you're thinking. You don't have to say it out loud. I know exactly what you're thinking. Anyhow, Cleopatra's story has been depicted in numerous works of literature as well as art, often emphasizing her beauty as well as intelligent and her manipulative nature. That contributes to fascination and speculation about her. Wow. So, like I said, it goes on to talk about Cleopatra's Needle in London. It is an interesting side story, but it doesn't have much to do with Cleopatra. I just think it's interesting. There is not a definite ghost story about Cleopatra that's in the same vein as classic haunted house tales. But the historical fascination with her life, as well as mysterious death, and the ongoing search for her tomb, contributes to the perception of her legacy as having a lingering presence or a sense of the supernatural. And like I said, on this show, we talk about haunted history, anything supernatural, creepy, unexplained, or just plain weird, and ghost stories. I do plan on talking about Bigfoot in the future because we actually have a Bigfoot museum here in Georgia. It's like located near my house somewhere. It's not too far off, and I would like to do an interview with the people who run that particular museum. I think it would be interesting. But anywho, let's not get off the subject. I am famous. I am famous with changing subjects. There's actually another book by the same author that's The Ghost of Cleopatra. I don't know if that's the one that I mentioned earlier. It probably is. Yeah, it is. It's the same book. I'll link it. Y'all might be interested in reading that. So, this comes from the Travel Channel. What we know about Cleopatra. I don't know if it's a video. I don't know if it's going to take me to a video. If it takes me to a video, then I'll have to mute it. Alright. Yeah, for some reason, It's trying to take me to a video. So I will link that as well. There's lots and lots and lots of different websites about Cleopatra, of course. But there's not a whole lot of actual, like, haunted history about Cleopatra. It's just interesting how she supposedly died. Like, she supposedly died from being bitten by a very, very poisonous snake known as an asp. And of course, they're trying to play videos on this page. Don't you love that? Like, video pop ups. Runs me crazy. So here we go. So Cleopatra is the daughter of a king, and she ruled alongside, like, her dad, as well as her two younger brothers and then her son. So Cleopatra ruled ancient Egypt as a co-regent with her father first and then her two younger brothers and then finally her son for almost 3 decades. She was part of the dynasty of the Macedonian rulers founded by Ptolemy, who served as general under Alexander the Great during his conquest of Egypt in 332 BC. She was very well educated as well as very, very, very clever. Cleopatra could speak various languages and served as the dominant ruler in all 3 of her co-regencies. She had romantic liaisons as well as military alliances with the Roman leaders Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, as well as her supposed exotic beauty and powers of seduction that earned her an endearing place amongst history and popular myth. Since no contemporary accounts exist of Cleopatra's life, like I told you, there's not any, like, concrete evidence. It is difficult to piece together her biography with much certainty. Much of what is known about her life comes from the work of Greco-Roman scholars, particularly Plutarch. Born in 70 or 69 BC, Cleopatra was the daughter of Ptolemy, a descendant of Ptolemy Soter, one of Alexander the Great's generals, and the founder of Ptolemaic line in Egypt. Her mother was believed to be Cleopatra V. Tryphania, the king's wife, and possibly his half-sister. Rewind. Possibly his half-sister. In 51 BC, upon the apparently natural death of Altes, the Egyptian throne passed to 18-year-old Cleopatra and her then 10-year-old brother Ptolemy. Wow. Wow, that's interesting. Here's a side note. Did you know, and it says, in the days between Cleopatra's death and Octavian's formal annexation, why can I not say that word? I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say. Of Egypt. Her 16-year-old son, Sarion, was officially sole ruler. He had no way of taking power, however, and was captured and executed shortly after his mother's death. Shortly after she ended her life. That is interesting. Very sad, but interesting. Soon after the siblings' ascension to the throne, Ptolemy's advisors acted against Cleopatra, who was then forced to flee Egypt for Syria in 49 BC. She raised an army. Why do I have visions of Khaleesi from Game of Thrones in my brain? Anyhow, of mercenaries, and returned the following year to face her brother's forces in civil war at Pelusium on Egypt's eastern border. Meanwhile, after allowing the Roman general Pompey to be murdered. Wow. Ptolemy welcomed the arrival of Pompey's rival Julius Caesar to Alexandria in order to help Cleopatra's cause. Cleopatra sought Caesar's support. Reportedly cuddling up. Into the royal palace to plead her case with him. Yeah. She's like cuddly with him. No, she smuggled herself into the royal palace to plead her case with Julius Caesar. But they had a supposed romance going on there. She is very cunning and very, 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 very sneaky. She knew what she was doing. Caesar and Cleopatra. So, for Caesar's part, he needed to fund his own return to power in Rome and needed Egypt to repay the debts incurred by Auletes. After 4 months of war between Caesar's outnumbered forces and those of Ptolemy, Roman reinforcements arrived. Ptolemy, I cannot say that word. Ptolemy, hopefully I'm not butchering it, was forced to flee Alexandria and was believed to have drowned in the Nile River. Wow. Entering Alexandria as an unpopular conqueror. So Caesar restored the throne to the equally unpopular Cleopatra. Wonder why she was not popular. And her younger brother Ptolemy, then who was only 13 years old. Caesar remained in Egypt with Cleopatra for quite a time, and around 47 BC she gave birth to a son, Ptolemy Caesar. He was believed to be Caesar's child and was known by the Egyptian people as Caesarion, or Little Caesar. Wow. So, eventually, Cleopatra's son, Little Caesarion, was named co-regent with his mother as Ptolemy XV. By this point, Cleopatra had strongly identified herself with the goddess Isis, which I will probably talk about on a future episode. Now I'm going to have to talk about Isis. I mean, come on. The sister wife of Osiris and mother of Horus. This was consistent with the ancient Egyptian tradition of associating royalty with divinity in order to reinforce the position of kings as well as queens. Cleopatra III had also claimed to be associated with Isis, and Cleopatra VII was referred to as the new Isis. She spoke as many as a dozen languages and was renowned for her irresistible charm, according to Plutarch. Yep. Because they say that Cleopatra seduced Mark Antony as well. She had the, idea of aligning herself with important figures. Powerful figures. So with Cleopatra's infant son as co-regent, Cleopatra's hold on power in Egypt was more secure than it had ever been. Still, unreliable flooding of the Nile resulted in failing crops, leading to inflation as well as hunger. Meanwhile, conflict was raging in Rome between a second of Caesar's allies, Mark Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus, and his assassins, Brutus and Caesius. Both sides asked for Egyptian support, and after some stalling, Cleopatra sent 4 Roman legions stationed in Egypt by Caesar to support the Triumvirate in 42 BC. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Triumvirate. That might be it. After defeating the forces of Brutus and Caius in the battles of Philippi, Mark Antony, as well as Octavian, divided power in Rome. Wow. There is a whole bunch of history here. I'm not going to bore you all by reading everything off of this page because, like I said, I can link it below and you can read for yourself. Also, I don't want to be disrespectful and butcher a whole bunch of names on this page. Mark Antony had soon been summoned by Cleopatra to the Sicilian city of Tarsus, south of modern Turkey, to explain the role she had played in the complicated aftermath of Caesar's assassination. Oh, wow. Okay, so we're going to read this part. According to the story recorded by Plutarch and later dramatized famously by William Shakespeare himself, Cleopatra sailed to Tarsus in an elaborate ship dressed in the robes of Isis. Yes, Isis. Antony, who associated himself with the Greek deity Dionysus, was seduced by her charms. It is said that she was absolutely stunning, absolutely gorgeous. I mean, come on now. She used beauty. She definitely used beauty to her advantage. Can you blame her? I mean, can you blame her? I would too. Dang. He agreed to protect Egypt and Cleopatra's crown. So, pledging support for the removal of her younger sister and rival Arsinoe, then in exile. Wow. Brutal. Cleopatra returned to Egypt, followed shortly thereafter by Antony, who left behind his third wife, Fulvia, and their children in Rome. That's despicable. He spent the winter of 41 through 40 BC in Alexandria, during which he and Cleopatra famously formed a drinking society called the Midable Livers. In 40 BC, after Antony's return to Rome, Cleopatra gave birth to twins, Alexander Helios, sun, and Cleopatra Selene, moon. Oh, wow. So here we go. Here's the Cleopatra power struggle. After Fulvia took ill and died, Antony was forced to prove his loyalty to Octavian by making a diplomatic marriage with Octavian's half-sister, Octavia. Oh, wow. So Egypt grew more prosperous under Cleopatra's rule, and in 37 BC, Antony again met with Cleopatra to obtain funds for his long, drug-out military campaign. against the kingdom of Parthia. In exchange, he agreed to return much of Egypt's eastern empire, including Cyprus, Crete, and Cyrenaica. Yay, gold star. Returned much of he returned much of Egypt's eastern empire. It also includes Libya, Jericho, and large portions of Syria and Lebanon. They again became lovers, and Cleopatra gave birth to another son, Ptolemy Philopheidos. Yeah, Philopheidos. In 36 BC. Wow, I didn't realize that she had so many kids. I guess, I didn't research too much of that. What I see of Cleopatra is mostly, what they depict in movies and books and stuff. There's so much more to Cleopatra's life than meets the eye. She is a very fascinating human being. I am enjoying learning about her. This is fascinating. So, after a humiliating defeat in Parthia, Antony publicly rejected his wife Octavia's efforts to rejoin him, and then returned to Egypt and Cleopatra in a public celebration in 34 BC, known as the Donations. I'll get it right eventually, bear with me. Donations of Alexandria. Antony declared Caesarion as Caesar's son and rightful heir, as opposed to his adopted son Octavian, and awarded land to each of his children with Cleopatra. Oh, man. Oh, that's brutal. Brutal, brutal, brutal. This began a war, obviously. Goes without saying. I mean, hello. This began a war of propaganda between him and the furious Octavian, who claimed that Antony was entirely under Cleopatra's control and would abandon Rome and found a new capital in Egypt in late 32 BC. The Roman Senate stripped Antony, as they should have, of all of his titles, and Octavian declared war on Cleopatra. I don't blame them. I mean, dang. That was brutal. Brutal, 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 brutal. So it goes on to tell you more about the battle and stuff. But supposedly on September 2nd of 31 BC, Octavian's forces soundly defeated those of Antony and Cleopatra in the Battle of Actium. Cleopatra's ships were deserted. Well, they deserted the battle. I'll get it out eventually. Cleopatra's ships deserted the battle and fled to Egypt. And soon after, Antony managed to break away and follow her with a few ships. With Alexandria under attack from Octavian forces, Antony heard a rumor that Cleopatra had committed the end of her life. She ended her life. And then he fell on his sword and died just as news arrived that the rumors had been false. Oh, wow. That is so sad. That's awful. After burying Antony and meeting with victorious Octavian, Cleopatra closed herself in her chamber with two of her female servants. The means of her death is definitely uncertain, like I told you. Who knows how she died? But Plutarch and other writers advanced the theory that she used a poisonous snake, known as an asp, which is a divine symbol of royalty, to commit the end of her life. And she was only 39 years old. I'm 45. I'm not ashamed to admit how old I am. 45. Hello. I've lived life. but she was only 39 years old. Wow. According to her wishes, Cleopatra's body was buried with Antony's, leaving Octavian, later Emperor Augustus I, to celebrate his conquest of Egypt and his consolidation of power in Rome. Wow. Wow, and there you have it, people. Let's see if... What was Cleopatra's last words before she died? Here are the supposed last words of Cleopatra before she died. As related by Livy in her meeting with Octavian, Cleopatra told him candidly, I will not be led in a triumph. Ancient Greek by Octavian only gave the cryptic answer that her life would be spared. Man. And they go on to ask what was Cleopatra's biggest mistake. Her biggest mistake, supposedly, was trying to ensure that the future of herself and her children remained a core part of Antony's foreign policy. Was not a stupid move. Perhaps the only clear mistake that Cleopatra had made was something that can be seen as both avoidable and partly blamed for her downfall. And that was the extent of her ambition. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, none of us know what it's like to live back in that time era. And, none of us could say what we would do exactly if we were put in Cleopatra's position. So maybe she did what she could do. Like, she did her best to maneuver life back then. And she did her best for her children. I mean, who's to say what any of us would do if we were in her sandals? I'm just saying. Who's to say what we would do if we were in her position? I think that Cleopatra was very, very intelligent, and she knew how to maneuver things, and she knew how to move her chess pieces on the board, so to speak. Just saying. She was very, very cunning and very, very intelligent. Oh, but I'm going to link all of this stuff down below. And it says that she was supposedly born on January 69 BC in Alexandria, Egypt. And she supposedly died August 10th, 30 BC at the age of 39 years in Alexandria, Egypt. She had three or four children. She had several children, two of which were twins. And yes, she was a daughter of a king, and she supposedly has grandchildren as well. So that's awesome. Like, the legacy continued. So, like I said, Cleopatra was not Egyptian, but she was of Macedonian Greek ancestry, specifically from the Ptolemaic dynasty. While she ruled Egypt, her lineage was not Egyptian. Her family was, in fact, of Greek origin. They established themselves in Egypt after Alexander the Great's conquest. There's no credible evidence suggests that she was of African descent. So, yeah. That's interesting. But anyhow, hopefully I did Cleopatra's history justice. And it's sad that we don't know more about her. Like, she's very intriguing and shrouded in mystery Like, I find it fascinating to learn about her, as well as, Greek history and Egyptian history. Like, it's fascinating to learn about all of it. And, you have to figure, like, if they're saying that she died due to the bite of an asp, this is haunted, sordid history here. Like, that's why I wanted to include Cleopatra in Belongs to the Shadows, because it's just so mysterious. It's mysterious, unexplained, like, very, very intriguing. And, you have to respect someone doing the best that they can do with what they're given in life. And I can only imagine how hard it must have been on a female back in that time era. Like, they couldn't rule. They had to rule as a regent. So she did what she could for her family and herself. And yeah, it is what it is, folks. So yeah. Next time I'll be talking about probably King Tutankhamun and Kings Valley 5, because there is definitely haunted history that surrounds that. So if you want to tune in and learn more about Kings Valley 5 and the history, haunted history that surrounds King Tutankhamun and his burial site, tune in next Monday. Tune in next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if any of you have any ideas for any other episodes or any research that I can do, please let me know in the comments below. And also, please like and subscribe to my channel, because it really helps me out. It really helps me out. I would appreciate it so much. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Until next time, stay creepy.